For the first time in his life, he's facing his own fate at the hands of somebody else. And I will tell you, Laura, I've done federal cases, that's not the place you want to be in federal court.
Diddy was acquitted of all charges in the shooting, and Shine has alleged that he was the fall guy, claiming to reporters in his newest comments that the artist and entrepreneur, quote, destroyed his life.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail.
The story we're tracking, music mogul Sean Diddy Combs on suicide watch at Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center after 2 judges denied his request for bail. This as a grand jury is expected to hear new testimony from sex workers very soon.
Sean Combs might have reached the end of the road. As multiple people claim that Diddy wouldn't last a day in prison, judges have placed him under suicide watch after denying his request for bail a second time. It seems clear that the feds don't intend to let him out anytime soon. Now let's start from the beginning. Back in March, the feds raided 3 of Diddy's mansions in a highly coordinated raid that left everyone baffled. After all, even with calls for justice, it's not uncommon to see people with power slip away from accountability.
Federal agents rushing into the home here behind me. There were 2 separate raids, one here in this upscale neighborhood, the other in Miami, both connected to a federal sex trafficking investigation. Take a look. Fox 11 was the first to show you the raid here locally, led by Homeland Security, heavily armored federal agents making their way into the home on Mapleton Drive, associated with rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs and his production company, Bad Boy Films. Dozens of agents searched the property for hours, leaving with boxes of evidence. A similar scene at the Miami Beach property listed in his name as well. The properties raided in connection to a sex trafficking investigation, although Department of Homeland Security officials haven't named Diddy as the focus.
Jaguar Wright was one of the people who had predicted that Diddy would soon go down, and even revealed that it was 3 instead of 2 mansions that were being raided. And remember how Kanye West revealed that Diddy was a federal informant? She also confirmed that.
When you said the day of the raid, you're talking about the raid on both Miami and California. Diddy's
and New
homes.
York. Simultaneously.
Wait, New York was?
Yeah, the New York house was raided as well.
Oh, wow. That didn't even, they didn't even really.
3 states working in tandem, and they did not tell the officers who they were raiding. They went in tactical as they were instructed to. They didn't know they was raiding Diddy's house. The higher-ups didn't tell anybody because they knew, with Diddy being a Fed informant, that he had people in the force and they wanted to make sure that went through legit. So they ain't tell nobody whose houses they was going to.
And that's why you see the guns.
The cops didn't know that it was Diddy's house over there in Beverly Hills around the corner from the Playboy Mansion. They didn't know until they seen the kids.
The Kanye video has been revisited over and over again by people who feel that he's not as crazy as he seems after all, especially since Diddy's ex-bodyguard Gene Deal also confirmed that he'd once been a Fed informant.
Poison me, and by the way, y'all done already with me so much. Y'all already black mirrored me. You already made everybody think I'm crazy. You already took my family away. You already separated all my friends. I don't got no celebrity friends. Because when I was on TV, on Instagram saying, I don't know where my child is, and the Kardashians kidnapped my daughter in public, and I didn't have the address of my child, none of these niggas that want to say something
Travis
now.
gave you the address, though?
Travis gave me the address. Right. But as far as Meek Mills, Puff Daddy, whoever, none of these niggas, all you fake hard niggas, f you.
Wait, hold
on.
Okay.
All you fake hard niggas, f you. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a because you can't shoot nobody anyway, and the reason why you got to talk is because you did a deal, you fucking Fed. You know what I'm saying? That's why you gotta come at me, because part of the deal for you to be a do all that and get out of jail is that you promise that you're gonna go pull my co-car. So y'all niggas shut the f up about me. Now let me say it calm. You niggas shut the f up about, you shut the f up about Michael.
Puff was a millionaire. Him being a confidential informant, him getting money like that, it was favors. He been getting favors and been paying law enforcement people for years to protect him. You understand? To protect him. We had a lot of people on the payroll when we was doing security. Somebody might have this first 10 hours, that 10 hours, or whatever. He was paying law enforcement. He had a budget for law enforcement. Now, if something goes wrong, those people got friends in certain places. Then plus he tells his handler, yo, can you make this go away for me? I'll give you this and that. Now, that could be a lot of speculations or whatever like that. But why would you have or be working for an FBI agent if you're not an informant?
So, if he was in cahoots with the feds, why is he being dragged through the mud now? Is it because he messed with the real people in power, as was implied with his Diageo lawsuit? Or was it just time for justice to be served after Cassie finally spoke up about the abuse she suffered for years? Whatever the case, Diddy has been denied bail twice now.
Now, if you may recall, this music mogul has been charged with sex trafficking, racketeering conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors argued he is a flight risk and used the term dangerousness today a lot, saying his violence against women went on for decades and he ran an elaborate sex acts called freak-offs, and he had a team who helped him with everything from setting up rooms to supplies. Now, prosecutors also said freak-off activity is the core of this case. They say the victims and escorts that were presented in this case so far is just the tip of the iceberg. They also argued that if bail was granted, risk of obstruction would be heightened because of Combs' power. And they say just last week he contacted a witness over 50 times. Now, Sean Diddy Combs' attorney argued Combs is trustworthy. He had a drug addiction and anger issues, and that he went to rehab for that. But he said that they also said that he had a foolproof system for bail. A new security service would monitor Combs 24/7 at his Miami home. He would not have access to internet or phone, so he would not be able to contact witnesses, and he submitted his passport.
This is after his attorney tried to fight for him repeatedly, and he offered his $50 million home and his mother's home as collateral. Apparently, he's even handed over his passport, but it's still not enough. This must have come as a shock to him, because before the hearing, his lawyer had confidently said that they'd fight to have him have to stay in prison. He even went on CNN to insist on his client's innocence.
So this was the first step. We have a bail appeal scheduled for tomorrow at 3:30 in front of Judge Carter, the district judge assigned to this case. I think that we made the points that we've been wanting to make. I think he came out. Mr. Combs is a fighter. He's going to fight this to the end. He's innocent. He came to New York to establish his innocence. He's not afraid. He's not afraid of the charges. There's nothing that the government said in their presentation today that changes anyone's mind about anything. He's been looking forward to this day. He's been looking forward to clearing his name, and he's going to clear his name.
I think they were denying sex crimes. I mean, because at the end of the day, the gravamen of that civil complaint wasn't a misdemeanor assault, which is what you see on that video. Not minimizing it, but it's a misdemeanor assault. What the gravamen of the complaint was sex crimes, and he denied that, and he still does.
Well, and you're saying that this is all just about that one relationship, but when you read through the indictment, they say that there's not just one victim. They say there's multiple victims here today. And what I heard described was they said they have 50 witnesses or victims.
Yeah, I think it's 49 witnesses and one victim. I think if you broke it down, and I say that because count 2, which is the sex trafficking count, has victim number 1, and there is no victim number 2 anywhere in the indictment.
So you're saying that there are not other women, because what they were essentially arguing here is that he coerced and forced women into sex acts.
So, despite his legal team's best efforts, Diddy is now expected to adjust to prison for the duration of his trial. Understandable, considering how he contacted one witness over 50 times to either threaten, bribe, or coerce him. Meanwhile, experts think that Diddy is looking at an uphill battle. Most cases prosecuted by the federal court are lost. The rest are brought a plea deal. Attorneys think the only choice he has is to testify.
That this indictment was very detailed, by the way, too. Your viewers should know there were over 300 subpoenas served, over 50 witnesses interviewed. Why is that important? Because the federal prosecutors aren't going to be leveling an indictment like this unless they have ammunition and they have cause to bring it. And the core issue at this case, which the feds have to prove, which it's looking like they can, is that P. Diddy essentially controlled these women, that he threatened them, with stopping that money that he was paying them, that he spiked their drinks with drugs. That's been alleged in the indictment. And that he basically told them, I'm going to ruin your life unless you engage in these freak offs. And that's really what the prosecutor's got to prove. And if you've got some victims coming forward to talk about that, you've got financial records that prove that, travel itinerary that proves that, P. Diddy has very little defense. And I got to tell you, Laura, if this guy wants to fight these charges, he's going to have to step up and walk into a courtroom and talk about it. If he doesn't testify in this case, he is dead on arrival.
Well, who else is on these tapes? I mean, will the tapes ever see the light of day?
Whether he's dead or not, Diddy's probably not happy about where he's being held. Note that he's apparently being held at the same facility as R. Kelly and Ghislaine Maxwell. It's even been described as hell on earth.
From his $48 million Miami mansion to hell on earth where chaos reigns. Just some of the words used to describe the Metropolitan Detention Center where Sean Diddy Combs is now being held without bail after pleading not guilty to sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct.
He is not the first high-profile inmate to pass through these walls. Ghislaine Maxwell, R. Kelly, Pharma Bro, Martin Shkreli, and crypto fraudster Sam Bankman-Fried, all as they waited for their federal criminal trials, called this jail home. But the conditions of the prison are far from homey, notoriously described as, quote, dreadful, as one judge put it. Some on the bench have even moved away from sending nonviolent defendants there. And in the last 3 years alone, 4 inmates have died by suicide. And violence is not the only issue. Accusations of medical neglect, staffing shortages, smuggling of drugs, some allegedly facilitated by employees. At least 6 staff members charged with crimes in the last 5 years, according to the AP. Some accused of accepting bribes and providing contraband.
I've had clients describe MDC as hell.
I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I'm going to try and minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and I believe inhumane housing conditions in the special housing unit of the Metropolitan Detention Facility. And I'm going to do everything that I can to move his case as quickly as possible. I understand that the government has a great amount of electronic devices that they have to download and provide to me.
And perhaps considering what people have said about him not wanting to live life in jail, judges have placed him on suicide watch. Gene Deal is the first one to claim that according to what he knew of Diddy, he wouldn't survive in jail.
When you're a narcissist, there's always a possibility because you're suffering. But I don't think that he could see himself in a cage. I don't think he could see himself behind those bars in those type of situations. It's too many real dudes that dislike him. But then again, there's a lot of real dudes that need help. And him being behind bars, he could probably help him.
Whether it's to prevent him from making a show out of his time in jail, or the feds really think he might try to harm himself, it's obvious judges feel keeping an eye on him is necessary.
Certainly it's not a good thing if you're Sean Combs' team.
According to several reports, Diddy has been placed on suicide watch at the Metropolitan Correction Center in Brooklyn. The music mogul's mental state is unknown, but being placed on watch is considered to be a preventative measure. This week, 2 different judges denied his request for a $50 million bond. His lead defense attorney is attempting to move him to a different facility in New Jersey.
Experts also think this could be a move to provide him protection. That, or the presence of a mental health professional, means he's genuinely in a bad mental state.
So I would assume that they're just being overcautious because he's not like your average defendant. He's a very well-known person who has a lot of prestige, and it would be interesting to see what goes on in the jail with him, but I'm sure he's going to need a little bit more of protective coverage in the jail.
I'm wondering if that's why they placed him on suicide watch now, kind of what you were saying, protective coverage, because he is such a high-profile inmate. Do you think that could be part of it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, going from a life where you live in a mansion to going to sit in a jail facility is not something easy to deal with.
Also, whenever we're thinking about cases like this, the big federal ones and just similar allegations, I go to Jeffrey Epstein, and obviously we know what happened there. He never was able to make it to trial because he died by suicide. Is that something that everyone is trying to avoid here, to make sure that any of the inmates don't actually die by suicide? It's unclear whether he's actually suicidal or if it's just a safety precaution, but we do know a mental health professional visits his cell at least several times a day. The U.S. Department of Justice Institute of Corrections describes Suicide Watch as supervisory precautions taken for suicidal inmates that require frequent observation.
No matter what, it looks like Diddy still has a long battle ahead of him. Will he actually walk free, or will his victims finally get the justice they deserve? That's it for now. Don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below. For more updates, hit the bell icon,